So I just took the new single prize deck Alakazam to my local tournament, and let's just say I did pretty well. By the way, if you guys are new here, hi, my name is Win, also known as Royal Illis. We do a lot of Pokemon TCG content here on this channel, so if you're not subscribed, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Anyways, let's check out what happened at this tournament that consisted of 31 players, which means we'll be playing 5 rounds. Make sure you guys watch the whole thing because we do have some Mega Evolution packs to open up at the very end. Out of 31 players, round 1 we got paired up with our friend Brian. What are the odds? You guys might have seen him before in my past vlogs. He was playing Goldango with the new Solrock and Lunatone engine. I believe he won the dice roll and chose to go second. I got set up pretty well with 2 Dunsparce and 2 Abra, then attaching Enriching Energy to my Dunsparce to draw some more cards, which got me another Abra and a Togepi. That was actually an insane turn 1. Brian had a horrible start with only a Solrock and 1 Gimmighoul. He proceeded to cipher 2 cards for his following turn, and retreated his Solrock into the Gimmighoul. Next turn I literally drew into everything I needed plus more. Got to rare candy one of my Abra into Alakazam, proceeded to play Lieutenant Surge. Very funny card where you ask your opponent if they would want to each take a prize card, or I draw 4 more cards. For the shits and giggles, Brian decided we both take a prize. I also got to rare candy to Togekiss as well, and proceeded to knock out his lonely Gimmighoul, while flipping heads on Togekiss, which means I literally took 3 prizes in 1 turn. What a game so far. Brian finally established a board, but he did have to put a Fez down. He counter captured up my Kadabra and knocked it out with Solrock plus Fatality Band. For my turn, I did everything I could to dig for my boss's order to bring up a Fez to end the game quicker, which I found it, but unfortunately I rolled tails so we couldn't close out the game. But we only have 1 prize left though. Regardless, Brian accepted the L and we move on to the next game, which will be Dragapult Dusknoir. Actually a really scary matchup since I am not playing the Psyduck. But let's be honest here, can you guys even get your hands on a Psyduck? Because I can't. Anyways, I won the dice roll and decided to go second. I think my opponent had an okay start with 2 Dreepy and 1 Duskull. For my turn, the only supporter I had was Lieutenant Surge, so we're gonna play that again. I was hoping my opponent would let me draw the 4 cards, but nah. He decided we both can take a prize. Luckily, I had Enriching Energy again to draw some more cards, so hopefully I can establish a board, which I did by drawing into a Buddy Hoffin. Now my board is looking pretty nice with 2 Dunsparce and 3 Abra. My opponent couldn't find any Draco during his turn, so he just decided to Badoo me, but he did evolve his Duskull into a Dusclops and knocked out one of my Abra. Since I got item lock, I couldn't rare candy into Alakazam, so I just settled with attacking him with a Kadabra, which does exactly 30 damage for only 1 energy. The following turn, my opponents still have a pretty dead hand with no ways to get out any Dracloak, which honestly is so unfortunate, so I finally evolved into my Alakazam and set up my board even more. Made sure I had a Dunsparce ready on the bench in case I get Iono next turn. Knocked out his Dreepy and then it was back to his turn. He finally evolved into a Dragapult EX with rare candy, but he made a mistake by evolving the active Dreepy into Dracloak, so now he isn't able to retreat for free with Latias. So his only other play was just to counter capture up my Abra to potentially stall. But with all the cards in my hand, all I had to do was rare candy to Alakazam and then try to dig for boss to close out the game since we only had 2 prizes left, which we did hit the boss to bring up the Latias to close out game 2. For the next game we faced Joltik Dango, won the dice roll and got to go second again. Even though my opponent had to go first, he got set up pretty well with 2 Gimmighouls. I'm right on to get out his Iron Hands, and he already had a Joltik in his hand as well. And that was kind of it for his turn. For my turn I got set up with 2 Abras and 2 Dunsparce. I also got to utilize Enriching Energy to draw some more cards again. I knew that my Pokemon wasn't going to get knocked out since Joltik needs to attack with Joltik in order to accelerate energy, which is exactly what my opponent did the following turn to accelerate energy onto his Iron Hands. Luckily, Alakazam has 140 HP, so he can't get amped by Iron Hands. I just have to be careful because he can just boss something up. I set up my board a little more and attack with Alakazam. I was actually trying to dig for a boss to knock out a 2-prizer, but wasn't able to find it, so we just knocked out the 30 HP Joltik, which I had plenty of cards in my hand. My opponent couldn't find the boss the following turn, so he just used Iron Hands first attack, which does 160 damage, but he doesn't get to take an extra prize. Usually Joltik box doesn't run any Iono. So I just kept drawing and drawing until I have enough cards to knock out whatever he has on the active, as well as set up a second Kadabra or Alakazam to guarantee I can attack the following turn. As I keep knocking out his 2-prizer while he only takes 1 prize, we took the dub for this round. Round 4 we have to face Terror Box. And this matchup could be in my favor as long as I am able to get Shaman down before he can Torrential Pump me. My opponent literally had the perfect start. Fan Rotom, 2 Hoot Hoots, Teal Mask, Manual attached to Wellspring, and an EV as well. For my turn, I started out with a Buddy Hoffin plus an Artisan. The first thing that I checked was for my Shaman, and to my surprise, I prized it. So my gameplay was to set up as much Abra as I can, because I know my opponent would do anything to knock out 2 of them. I was able to set up 3 Abra with Togepi in the active. My opponent utilized 2 Noctowl to get whatever he needed in order to Torrential Pump me. But he didn't boss one of my Abra up, so at least I still have 2 to work with in the following turn. I managed to get out my Alakazam the next turn, but I was short 2 cards in my hand to knock out his Wellspring. So I was only able to do 180 damage. The following turn he Torrential Pumped me again. With Iron Bundle, he was able to knock out my Dunsparce in the active and a Kadabra in the bench. I finally have enough cards in my hand to knock out anything on his board. He only has 3 cards in his hand, so I decided to target his Fez. I also left my board with only an Alakazam and a Kadabra, so he can't close out the game by torrential pumping me again. When I knocked out his Fez, his only attacking option was his Teal Mask Ogerpon, which is loaded with energy, so he can definitely knock out my Alakazam. With only 3 cards left in his hand, I decided to just leave my board with just a lonely Alakazam and hope he doesn't have Crispin to power up his Flareon or a Nest Ball to get out his Blood Moon or Saluna. I knocked out his Teal Mask and prayed for the best. With the 4 cards in his hand, he didn't have a way to close out the game, so he just pushed up a 1 prizer and pass. I showed him the boss in my hand, which means I can take my final 2 prizes to close out the game. Man, that was a crazy close game. Moving on to our last and final round. There was only me and my opponent with a record of 4-0, so we both agreed to ID to guarantee top 2. By the way, ID stands for intentional draw if anyone doesn't know. I am super glad my opponent agreed to ID, because we are facing Grimmsnarl, which is probably our hardest matchup, literally a losing battle. We still play to see who would get the first place prizing, and for some reason my opponent could not get a supporter. I was knocking out his Pokemon left and right before he could get to evolve into a Grimmsnarl. I was at 2 prizes until he finally evolved into a Grimmsnarl, but at that point, it was too late. I closed out the game by knocking out his Grimmsnarl. For our final standings, we got first place, which got us 12 packs of Mega Evolution. I also ran the same deck at another local tournament and went undefeated again, but this time I got placed second instead. And for that tournament, I got 5 packs of Mega Evolution, which I'll be opening for a short, so stay tuned for that. But anyways, let's crack open these 12 packs and see what we pull. Ooh, a Mega Lucario EX, very playable. I don't know if you guys watched my last vlog, but we also opened around like 10 Mega Evolution packs and didn't really pull anything, so hopefully we get something in this. And honestly, I just want some playable cards. Ooh, a full art, okay. I did say playable, so we'll take it. It's already looking better than the last vlog. Ooh, a Lily's very playable. We'll take those for sure. I hope we get some more hits. We started so strong. Where are all the hits? Ooh, a Lily's. We'll take that. Ooh, a Mega Mawile. Not bad, not bad. We love this card, am I right? Only 3 packs left. It'll be crazy if we pull an SIR, right? Ooh, a IR. We'll take that. Can we get a double hit? Alright, it's our last pack. You guys know the deal. Can we get some last pack magic, please? Honestly, we got more hits than the last vlog, so we'll take it. Anyways, that is it for this vlog. If you want to check out more of my content, check out this playlist right here. If you're not subscribed, make sure you hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Whoosh.